Okay, we're ready to begin. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Bilo.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to this afternoon's announcement. It's a pleasure to be here with you. As you know, when COVID hit last March, the city, with the support of our partners, moved very quickly to create physical distance in our shelter systems to respond to the housing pressures that existed even pre-COVID. But very soon as well, we started focusing our attention to what was going to be not only an emergency response, but actually to obtain sustainable long-term results on this file, and most importantly, for the people that needed the housing. And that's why we called on our partners to focus on modular housing, on supportive housing, and we got results that our mayor advocated for, that cities across the country advocated for, and that's why the federal government responded very quickly and effectively with a program of rapid housing initiative and support for our modular housing that we continue to announce. This week alone, it's the second time that many of us are gathered here to announce projects, and that's the way, that is the only way that we are able this year alone in the city of Toronto to be producing 1,200 units, over 1,200 units of supportive housing in our city. It is the partnerships and the support, the strong support of our federal government that makes that possible. So I'm very pleased to be once again this week joined by Honorable Ahmed Hussein, Minister, and the Scarborough Centre MP, Salma Saeed, who's also a strong advocate for affordable housing as well. And obviously, my colleague, local councillor and Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson, and our mayor, who's been a champion of these programs and these projects all across the city, participating in community meetings, making sure that staff are focused on delivering these projects. So, Mr. Mayor, please, if you can let us know all the details about the announcement this afternoon.
Well, Anna, thank you. And I'm very pleased to be here today with, yes, I have unmuted myself a couple of times this week. I haven't. I'm very pleased to be here today with you. And I should say to people watching, Anna Bilow has been at the forefront of every one of our housing developments, and the reason that we're, going to be able to produce 1,200 supportive housing units, probably a record of any year ever in the history of the city, is because of her leadership and the support that we're going to talk about here this afternoon from the federal government. But she's a key to this. Every time we have one of these challenges in front of us, it's local. The city government is very involved because we're closest, to the people. We're here in the city of Toronto. But we need partnerships, and we need leadership, and we need money. And the partnerships come from people like Salma Saeed, MP, because she's local to this neighborhood, and of course our Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson. And they support these projects. And when they support these projects and improve them and work with the local neighbors to make sure that they're embraced into the neighborhood, that's when they're successful. As for the money, that comes from the federal government, in this case in capital, in terms of these supportive housing projects. The provincial government has helped us with operating funding, and the city is often helping, as is the case today, with finding a piece of land and otherwise contributing sometimes to some of the deferrals or forgiveness of some of the other kinds of charges. So that really just illustrates, I think, when governments work together, we can form these incredibly effective partnerships that can actually do things very quickly. And Ahmed Hussein, the minister, has been at the forefront of a program I routinely describe as wonderful. And I don't just say that because it's, politics. I say it because it's true. That to have a program that by its very name, the Rapid Housing Program, to have another one that by its very name talks about innovation in housing, these are the things we had to do. Because the old way, where we essentially took people experiencing homelessness and said, well, the best we can do is to have you in a shelter. And that was certainly a roof over their heads, and it was a bed. But it was really not much more than that, and people needed more than that. And in many cases, when the pandemic came, people ended up in places like encampments, which I think we all agree are not healthy, they're not safe, and they're not legal. And so this was no answer either, obviously, especially in a country and in a climate like ours. So the federal government came forward and brought forward these programs that are going to help us substantially to put these housing units in place, and they keep a bit of a discipline on us in terms of getting it done quickly as well, because that is really the key these days. The need is there now. The need was there before, but it's certainly there now in the aftermath of the pandemic, which is not over yet. And we need this housing to be available to people. And it's housing that isn't just a bed and a roof and meals. Those things are all important, but it also provides these much needed supports to people to help them with issues they have in their lives, whether it is a job or whether it is a dependency issue of some kind, or whether it is some sort of counseling that has to do with a mental health issue that people have. There are people that experience these issues as part of or as a result of experiencing homelessness. And in order to get them back on their feet and live the kind of lives they want to live in a dignified manner, that's what we have to do. So we will have 57 new homes created at 7 Glamorgan Avenue in Scarborough using the innovative modular construction. And this too is a miracle. We went in the very first one of these, which is in Scarborough, and there have been quite a few since across the city, and this is something that is being applied across the city. We went from selecting a site last June, a year ago now, to having people living in these very nice apartments that I visited myself in December. It was remarkable how quickly we could move when we all put our minds together and we used the modular construction to get that done. And we've got great operators in each of these developments that are the people that are experienced at offering the supports to people and making sure that this is a home, a real home. These are individual apartments with bathrooms and kitchens, but that it is also a home in which there are supports available to those who need them, so that people not only get housed properly, but they also get housing that really helps them to turn around some other challenges they face in their lives. The good news is that 21 of these 57 units in Glamorgan will be also barrier-free. That again is something that reflects the fact that a number of the people who experience homelessness are people that have other differing abilities and other things that stand in the way of their being able to live as others might. And in this case, we've simply taken account of that and removed those barriers so they too can be people who can be within these new communities and be equally embraced. The buildings also have the buildings, plural, meaning ones like this, but the one on Glamorgan will have a dining room, programming space, administrative offices, a commercial kitchen. And there's something else. The commercial kitchen can provide meals for the residents, but we think it offers an opportunity, for example, to have other people in the neighborhood get involved, perhaps even in some cooking classes, and really make this more of a community, even more of a community than it is today. The building will be managed by a qualified, experienced nonprofit housing operator and provider that brings professional building management to this job, and of course by other agencies qualified and experienced at offering supports to people. It is part of phase 2 of our modular housing initiative, which was approved by the City Council in April of 2020. We have already opened, including the ones that I mentioned on Macy Avenue, 100 new modular homes, 56 on Macy and 44 on Dovercourt in Deputy Mayor Bailau's ward. And in February, we announced the first 2 phases in the second phase of this program in both Willowdale and in East York. So as you can see, they're across the city. And Glamorgan, 7 Glamorgan, will be the final, third and final site for phase 2 of our modular housing initiative. And these homes will be ready for people to move into next spring. So again, not far away at all. The city is contributing approximately $11.12 million to the capital costs for Glamorgan. So that is the contribution that we're making that goes on top of the contribution being made by the federal government. And we're also contributing the TCHC owned land, and by deferring some of the charges that we would ordinarily put on top of developments of this kind, deferring those in the interest of contributing to being able to offer this housing as affordable housing, and offering it in months, not years. At City Hall, along with Deputy Mayors Bailau and Thompson, we have brought a sense of urgency to the housing file to get affordable housing and to get supportive housing actually built and lived in the city. But I want to tell you, it is just absolutely the truth to say that we could have all the urgency and all the determination we want. But to do this at the scale that we're doing it, at the speed that we're doing it, would not be possible without our partners, the Government of Canada. And that includes a very, I'll call him aggressive because he is, and it's aggressive in a positive way, an aggressive, ambitious, determined minister, Ahmed Hussein, supported by 416 members of parliament that represent the Toronto area, including Salma Zaid in the case of this neighborhood, who have been immensely helpful in making the case for Toronto on transit, making the case for Toronto on housing, and a host of other issues where I meet with them regularly on Monday nights. And believe you me, I hear from them about what they need from us. And when I tell them what the city of Toronto needs, they listen and they act and they go to the meetings that they have in Ottawa and impress the points upon the government that they're a part of. I can just say to you right now, without our federal partners, we couldn't do this. And frankly, the same is true of the provincial government in a different way. They have come forward with the operating funding, and we have some longer term considerations to deal with them on in terms of making sure that's there for the future. But I know it will be. And I want to thank them for their partnership as well. But it all started with this excellent series of initiatives, part of the National Housing Program led by Ahmed Hussein and by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I will just say to you that this really underlines something that I talk about all the time. I want it to be a hallmark of my time as mayor that what we did, all of us together, Michael Thompson, Anna Bailão, myself, Salma Saeed, Ahmed Hussein, Justin Trudeau, and all the other members of federal parliament for Toronto, and the members of provincial parliament. We work together to get things done. We are here to accomplish things for the people. We don't care what each other's party stripes or backgrounds or how we got elected or who did what in what election. We just want to get housing built. We just want to get transit built so that we can have this city better off as a result. And that's what today is further evidence of. And I thank the minister for that. And I will now hand it over to Ahmed Hussein, who is not only the Minister of, I call him Minister of Housing, but he's Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and Minister responsible for all of these housing programs, probably has been responsible for building as much housing during his short time in this department as any of his predecessors. And keep up the good work, Minister. We need more. So thank you very much, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mayor Tory, and it is really a pleasure to join you today, together with my good friend and colleague Salma Zahid and the Deputy Mayor and friend Anna Bailão, as well as Councillor Thompson. Michael, I've known you over the years, and I know how hard you work for your community. Bonjour tout le monde. I want to, of course, do a land acknowledgement and recognize that I'm speaking on traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Wendat peoples. And, it's a great day. It is, I really want to thank all of you for being here. Je sais que nous partageons tout l'objectif de faire en sorte que les Canadiens aient accès en chez-soi sûr et abordable. We all here because we share the goal that all Canadians deserve access to a safe and affordable and stable housing. And current events, as Anna Bailão has spoken about, have reminded us more than ever before that nothing is more important than a home. And so, as Canadians have done their part to contain the spread of COVID-19 by staying in their homes and using their homes as places of safety and refuge, we've acted very quickly in the face of this unprecedented challenge to come together both at both levels of government to protect this sanctuary of home. Nos mesures ont apporté un soulagement important aux familles et à l'économie. Our measures have provided valuable relief to families and to the economy. But we also know, as Councillor Bailão has said, that housing affordability was an issue before COVID and is an issue now and will be an issue after COVID. And so we need to put in place long-term solutions that will address the different needs of different populations in our Canadian society. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle nous sommes ici aujourd'hui. And that's why we're here today. Last year, our government was proud to announce $18.75 million in funding support for the City of Toronto's modular housing initiative, delivered through the Innovation Fund. Today, we're seeing the results that have ensued as a result of that. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui concernant le projet 7 Glamorgan Avenue est dans le cadre de la deuxième phase de l'initiative de logement modulaire de la ville de Toronto. Il fournira des logements et des services de soutien à environ 57 personnes dans le besoin. Today's announcement regarding the 7 Glamorgan Avenue project is part of the second phase of the Modular Housing Initiative and will provide homes and support services to approximately 57 vulnerable Torontonians. These will be homes for seniors, women, Indigenous peoples, peoples with disabilities, and those who are experiencing homelessness. And our government is very proud to help fund this initiative with a $10.5 million investment through our Affordable Housing Innovation Fund. Because as Mayor John Tory has said, we believe everyone deserves an equal and fair chance at success. Innovative housing solutions are critical to ensuring that more Canadians have access to affordable housing that meets their particular needs. And our government's National Housing Strategies Innovation Fund has been instrumental in developing the next generation of housing in Canada with new ideas, funding new ideas, welcoming them, testing out new innovations, and looking at the particular needs of various communities. Uh, that is why in Budget 2021, we're investing an additional $600 million over 7 years to renew and expand the Innovation Fund. C'est pourquoi, dans le budget 2021, nous investissons 600 millions de dollars supplémentaires sur 7 ans pour renouveler et élargir le fonds d'innovation. To date, this innovation program has committed funding to support the creation of over 17,600 units, including a majority for persons with accessibility challenges. This new funding, as part of Budget 2021, will support the creation of an additional 12,700 units, bringing the total to over 30,000 units of housing. Today's announcement builds on our previous housing investments in Toronto. Lately, it looks like there's hardly a week that passes by where I am not appearing in some virtual announcement with Mayor John Tory as well as Deputy Mayor and City Councilor Anna Bailao to announce yet other projects, including the recent funding through the Rapid Housing Initiative just yesterday to build 113 units in Etobicoke that will help vulnerable populations, including women and Black Canadians. The National Housing Strategy involves many different players, and we must work together more closely than ever to achieve its ambitious goals. And I always say that if we are ever to achieve the ambitious goals or even exceed those targets under the National Housing Strategy, we can't do it alone. We need incredible partners, ambitious partners like the City of Toronto, represented here by Michael Thompson, Anna Bailao, and Mayor Tory, to do so. Euh, Ce qui a été accompli aujourd'hui est le résultat de beaucoup de collaboration, de partenariat et de coopération. What has been achieved here today is the result of collaboration, partnerships, and cooperation. And together we will continue to work to ensure that every resident in our city has a safe and affordable place to call home. And Mr. Mayor, you are absolutely right. The 416 caucus has been strong in advocating for transit, housing, and other supports for Toronto. And I meet with them, of course, as a member of 416 caucus. But Salma Zahid is there as well, advocating for her community, making sure that we're getting the perspective of Scarborough together with other members of Scarborough in 416 caucus. And today we are here as a result of our hard work as well. So thank you to all. Merci beaucoup. I now want to introduce my friend and colleague Salma Zahid.
Thank you, Minister Hussain. Thanks a lot for your leadership and for this great announcement today. I'm very thankful to Minister Hussain for his leadership on the housing file and also advocating on behalf of the residents of Scarborough. I've been seeing his leadership since last 20 years when both of us were part of Regent Park in different capacities. So thank you once again. It's a great day for the residents of Scarborough Centre. Thank you, Mayor Tory, for your leadership and being there for the people of Scarborough, whether it is housing or transit. It has been a great week for the people of Scarborough. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you all today. There is nothing more important than making sure every Canadian has a place to call home. High housing costs are a top of mind issue for our government and the Canadians in communities from coast to coast to coast. I hear about this every day from my constituents here in Scarborough Centre, and especially in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, when access to safe, affordable housing is more important than ever. Making sure that everyone in Canada has the dignity of a home has been a priority for our government since day one. And that's why in Budget 2021, we are making significant new investments in housing. Our government understands the pivotal role that housing plays in our recovery plan. Housing keeps us safe so that we can finish the fight against COVID-19. It creates well-paying jobs and growth. And when it is done right, it can help to build a fairer, greener, and a more resilient economy. We can't do it alone. However, we need to work with our partners in cities across this country to make sure the unique needs of their residents are being met. In that regard, the City of Toronto has been a steadfast, diligent partner of our government. It is thanks to the dedication of Mayor Tory, Deputy Mayor Anna Barlow, and our local councillor, Michael Thompson, as well as the work of City Council and the tireless city staff who work to build affordable housing supply, that we can join you today for this important announcement. I am thrilled the city is investing in supportive modular housing in our community, as it is desperately needed. 7 Glamorgan Avenue will be purpose-built to provide an accessible, affordable, and amenable life to those who will soon call it a home. This will not be the last investment we make in this community, and I really look forward to many more announcements of this nature to come. So thank you to Mayor John Tory, Councillor Bailo, my good friend and colleague, Minister Ahmed Hussain, and my local councillor, Michael Thompson. Now I'm going to introduce to you all a person who is certainly well-known face in Scarborough, and for many Scarborough residents, this man is a familiar figure. His focus in helping residents solve local issues and serving his constituents is well known. He's a true Scarborough native who received his education here in Scarborough. In 2003, he was voted into the office of councillor. In 2006, as chair of the Scarborough Community Council, he was in the forefront of the campaign to create the first ever TTC transit strategy for Scarborough. He is also instrumental in supporting business in Scarborough and is one of the co-founders of our beloved Taste of Lawrence, which we everyone look forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the only politician I know to hold the distinction of having received the Bob Marley Award and Bob Marley Lifetime Achievement Award, Councillor for Scarborough Centre and Deputy Mayor for the East Area of Toronto, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you very much, Selma, and good afternoon. I'm honored to be in the presence of the Mayor, Minister Hussain, and Selma, certainly yourself. We work so well together, and of course, my colleague, Deputy Mayor Anna Barlow. I'm ecstatic, actually, with respect to what we're doing here today. And I'm very thankful to all of you. And clearly, the leadership of our mayor has just been absolutely outstanding, and his collaboration and his patience as well. And of course, that of my colleague, Deputy Mayor Bailao, and of course, Minister Hussain. You have been
Oh, Deputy Mayor, I think you're muted.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. I think there was
Okay.
an issue with the internet, so go ahead,
Yeah,
sorry.
I think so. Yeah, I'm sorry. So where did I left off? I was speaking to Minister Hussain that and just been absolutely tremendous. The mayor has spoken about the collaboration with the levels of government in terms of providing what's needed for our which will bring 57 new homes to Scarborough Centre. And I'm so delighted about that for city-controlled lands and employs the latest building technology to create permanent, energy-efficient, supportive homes in our community. The facility goes beyond simply important to accept residents in our community. Access like this one enables us to tackle the homelessness issue faster and more comprehensively than ever before in our history. It provides a dignified, holistic response, streamlines the development process, and enables an accelerated timeline that responds to the pressing, immediate need for housing. I encourage everyone to address their concerns and to help make this project a great success. I will remain actively involved to ensure that the best interests of our community our sessions will provide local residents with an opportunity to learn more and are also available on the project website. Immediate and real. We're very proud that Scarborough Centre has an important role to play in tackling one of the most pressing urban issues and helping the city fulfill its greatest
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. We were having some difficulties, actually. I'm not sure if it was only my internet, but I believe you're.
Did you hear much of my remarks?
We heard a little bit. I'm not sure if it was only my internet, but you were cutting off quite a bit. But I heard that you're going to be involved in ensuring that this is going to be a real benefit for everyone in your community. And for that, I think we're very thankful for your leadership on this file, always supporting affordable housing and actually connecting, ensuring that people understand the connection between affordable housing, housing affordability, and the file that you lead at the city, which is economic development. And so you do that on a citywide basis, but you do also champion that in Scarborough and in your community. So thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you to all the speakers today. And I do want to express my gratitude to a group of people that sometimes doesn't get thanked when we do these press conferences, but I think that as we are developing the modular housing and the rapid housing program, we need to really thank the staff, both at the city and at CMHC, Minister, because they've been working collaborative on this program. And since we started the acceleration of our modular housing program, and now with some of the announcements that we have around affordable housing, we have over 700 units that we've announced since last June. 100 of those are occupied, 2 of those were acquisitions, and 4 projects under modular. That's over 700 units since we started to work on these programs about a year ago that we have announced. And this is obviously aside from the many programs that we're working together, Housing Now, Open Door, and even some of the projects like the one we announced this morning, the mayor and I, on development. So thank you to everyone's leadership, and that concludes our remarks, and I'll pass it on now to our teams to see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just before we get to questions, we're going to show you guys a quick video of the project. Okay, thank you, everybody. So we'll now open up the floor to the media. As a reminder, it's 1 question, 1 follow-up. We do have, of course, all the speakers on the line to answer questions, and then we do have some staff as well if you have any technical questions. We just have 1 reporter on today, and it's Mark McAllister from City News. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'd like to preface my question by commending you for the number of announcements related to this file that you have made recent days, recent months. And you're all going to want to jump on answering this question. So I'm going to have to ask someone to focus, perhaps Mayor Tory to start. There are critics. There will always be critics, some of which are going to say, no matter how fast and how rapid these housing initiatives are, it's still not enough. 8,000 homeless people in the city, 80,000 people on the waiting list for social housing, a goal of 40,000 new units to be built over the next less than a decade now. How do you go about meeting the needs of everyone when you've got so many people that need to get into housing at this rate? Because it's not necessarily going to meet the needs at this rate, despite how fast it seems to be going.
I think any examination of the record would show that we're ramping up the progress that we're making and the number of units that we're putting into place, 1,200 plus for supportive housing units just this year, probably a record year, probably not surpassed in any prior year in 1 year. Affordable housing units went from less than 1,000 in years after years after years in previous administrations to now well in excess of that. And these are buildings and units that are under construction, that are in the approval process and getting their way through. And why has that been possible? It's been possible because all of the governments, but led by the federal government and followed closely behind by us, have put their money where their words have been, and have created and invented programs like the Rapid Housing Initiative and like other elements of the National Housing Strategy to make it possible for us then to move forward and supply some of these needs. And I'll just tell you, Mark, how one initiative that they have put forward recently is helping us to pick up the pace, because, you know, you're right, we have more to do, mostly because in years gone by, more wasn't done by some of our predecessors. The Rapid Housing Initiative has allowed us, as part of this very same series of announcements we're making, to, for example, buy some buildings that were otherwise, not being used for this purpose. Whether it's the building at 877 Yonge Street, or whether it's the building on Spadina Avenue. And what that allows us to do, even faster in some respects than the modular housing unit, is to take a building, that one on Yonge Street near Davenport, will create 200 plus housing opportunities for people who've been experiencing homelessness in a matter of almost weeks from the time when the purchase takes place. And so I think innovative programs like this, that have never really been a hallmark of what's been done before, will allow us, together with the tremendous leadership that Deputy Mayor Bailau is showing in things like the Open Doors program and others, to really ramp up our efforts. And I think if you look at the trend line of how many units we started with at the beginning of this administration and how many we're up to now, if we can continue to build that momentum up, we are going to make a major dent in this list. And I think that it is something that's very much in front of us, because we came to recognize the old way of doing things, where we had a few affordable units being built every year. We didn't have the kind of robust partnerships with the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. The other two governments, frankly, one would be out of the housing business when the other one was back in. Everybody's on board now, including us, and we're just going to ramp up and address those numbers.
If I could add, Mark, if you have the rest of the afternoon free, I mean, we could get on the phone and I could go on about this issue for the rest of the afternoon. It's a complex issue.
I figured as much. Thank you.
I usually start by saying that I believe that in recent decades, there has never been as much done in housing as we're seeing now, and the need has never been as great. So that is the reality that we're facing. We're constantly catching up to inaction on this file for a few decades prior to a national housing strategy, prior to our city government truly acknowledging that they had a role, and to launch programs like Housing Now, where we have 17 sites now producing thousands of units, where we have the Open Door program that just this February approved over 900 units, where we have modular housing that has over 500 units under construction. But the supply is not the only answer. If you look at our housing plan, housing allowances is part of the answer. Vacant tax is part of the answer. Short-term rentals, we just have a report at Planning and Housing that says our regulations has brought the number of units that were in the short-term rental to the long-term rental to the tune of 5,000 units. All these initiatives contribute for the response that is needed on housing. So it's a multifaceted response that we cannot only look at the number of housing that we're supplied, or the number of houses that we're building. It's different initiatives and different policies that need to target this complex issue that we know is of the utmost importance for our residents, for the economy of our city, and for the recovery of our economy, especially now post-pandemic.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Unrelated question for Mayor Tory, if you would. Just let me pull up some information here. Health Canada just today said, and I'll quote, restrictions can lift for COVID once 75% of Canadians get one shot and 20% are fully vaccinated. Public health measures and restrictions could potentially start to lift at that point. Just your thoughts on those numbers.
I think it gives us something to aim at. And, I think the more that we can have from both of the other governments, simple, straightforward targets, and what will happen when those targets are met, ideally with some dates on some of them, the better off we're all going to be in terms of knowing what our job is. But our job as a city right now is to get those vaccinations into people's arms, and to make sure that we help the other governments in any way that we can, especially the province, to follow public health guidelines. But I think our job, which we're doing, I would say very well, and I'm not trying to be immodest about this, I think the city is doing an outstanding job. Thousands upon thousands of vaccinations being put into people's arms every day at clinics that I think people acknowledge are being run well, and we're attacking the hotspots. We've gone from single-digit vaccination rates to over 50% in many of the most challenged neighborhoods, and that's on the way to the kind of target that has been mentioned by Health Canada of 75% or so. So we will be relentless at getting vaccinations into people's arms, thousands every day, on the way to 75 and ideally 100%. We will be relentless on making sure public health guidelines are followed to the greatest extent possibly that we all can. And I think between those two things, we will get to a promised land, whether it's the one identified by Health Canada today in particular or by anybody else, where it's seen from places like the United States and Britain and otherwise, that when you get to those kinds of levels, you can actually have a much more open sort of environment. But that's presuming upon getting to those goals, which we have to focus on for now.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Minister, as always.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mayor, plural.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
Selma. Bye-bye.
Thank
See
you,
later.
everyone.
Bye.